everyone, so welcome to my third Halloweensday Halloween tutorial, and this week my costume is Agatha from the Wes Anderson movie Grand Budapest Hotel. It's one of my favorite movies ever. It's so cute and I love the character of Agatha. She's played by, I think, Saoirse Ronan, I think that's her name, and I love that movie so much, so I had to do an Agatha costume. So I was able to create this entire costume for $7.50 from buying things from the thrift store and using things that I already owned. I really love how this costume turned out, and Agatha is one of my favorite costumes that I've done so far for this Halloween season, and I just thought she was such a cute character and I had to make a costume of her. One of my favorite thing about this costume is that I had to kind of like make a lot of the prop things. I made the apron myself. I'll talk about that a little bit more in a few minutes. I made the little necklace as well, the Society of Crossed Keys necklace. I even made my own little Mendel's box, which I love. It's like the cutest thing in the world. I even kind of got crafty with how I did my Mexico birthmark. Scar birthmark that Agatha has in the movie, which I love how quirky Wes Anderson is with his movies, like in the Royal Tenenbaums. You know, Margot has the like wooden finger and stuff like that. It's just, there's always like something a little bit quirky with the characters, and I just loved the Grand Budapest Hotel so much. So, not gonna lie, for this costume, Agatha really doesn't really wear much makeup at all in the movie, like really discernible makeup. So I went pretty liberal with it. I ended up just doing like a really basic all matte with a winged liner. Again, that's not very true to the movie, but I thought it would just not be as fun if I didn't do any makeup. So I just did like my basic kind of beauty makeup, but then for the Mexico birthmark, what I ended up doing, I have an electronic cutting machine, so I have a Cricut, so that was very helpful for doing this. Even if you don't have one of those cutting machines, you can still do it by hand, but what I ended up doing was just cutting a little template of Mexico, and I used this as a stencil, and then I just sponged on a cream bronzer, and then I topped it off with a powder bronzer to give me the Mexico birthmark. You can always freehand it if you want. I find this is just the easiest way to do it. It's pretty foolproof and it worked for me. Again, if you don't have an e-cutting machine, then you could always like print out a little template of Mexico and hand cut it with an X-Acto knife. It's a little more time consuming, but it still can be a little bit easier than freehanding. The hair is super simple. All I did was just two simple braids and then pinned them to the top of my head. Again, she doesn't really have any really, I don't know, over the top like hair or makeup or anything. It's really pretty simple, and I really like how it turned out. It was very easy to do. So moving on to the actual costume pieces. So first I have this pink long sleeve under my dress. In the movie she seems to have like a long sleeve pale pink shirt. I ended up not having like a long sleeve shirt, so what I ended up doing was just putting on a pink cardigan that I had. So I'm actually wearing a cardigan under my dress, which is a little bit weird, but it works. So that I already own, so I didn't have to buy that or anything. Then next I got this tan dress from the thrift store. I'm not quite sure what the style of this dress is. It kind of reminds me of like World War II women going to work or something. I don't know. It's just kind of like a really structured tan khaki long dress, and it's a button up. I got this dress from the thrift store for $3.50, so that was a huge steal. The only thing is like the collar is a little bit different than the movie, but overall I think it still achieves a pretty similar look to Agatha. Then next I created this apron. You, of course, if you already have one, you could just use that. I didn't have a light blue apron, and I was trying to find one that I could buy, but I ended up going to the thrift store and I got a extra large men's light blue button-up shirt, and I actually ended up cutting it up and turning it into an apron. I'm actually like really impressed with how it turned out. I'm not gonna lie, I'm really not a very good sewer at all. So the stitch work is like, don't look at the stitching, because like I'm really not good at sewing. I am very basic at sewing. So I was able to take the men's shirt. What I ended up doing was cutting off the sleeves and the collar, and that left me with the back panel of the shirt. Then what I did was I folded over the top half of it to create a seam, and then I cut that and sewed that together. And then for the ties of the apron, I recycled the sleeves of the shirt, and I ended up just kind of like cutting and sewing them. I'm sorry I'm kind of like vague on how I did it, but I didn't use a pattern. I didn't look up how to do it online. I literally just looked at the shirt and I thought, how can I turn this into an apron? And that's what I did. So it's a very poor craftsman of an apron, but it's really just for the costume, so it's not a big deal at all. And the shirt I ended up getting was $4 at the thrift store. I know I totally could have ended up getting one for $1 if I had gone to another thrift store, but I was just at that store at the moment, so I actually probably could have gotten away with making this costume even cheaper than I already did. But next I have these really cute Oxford shoes. They're kind of like a light brown color, and these I already owned. I got these from Torrid probably like 7 years ago, but they're just very simple, kind of like an Oxford style shoe. Then for the necklace here, the Little Society of Crossed Keys, what I ended up doing was I had this light blue ribbon, and it was actually twice the thickness that it is now. So what I ended up doing was just folding it in half, ironing it down, and then gluing it together so it was just kind of doubled over to give it a little bit of a thinner look, because sometimes cutting ribbon, it just frays a lot, so I didn't want to deal with that, so I took the easy way out and just glued it down the center. And then for the actual pendant of the cross keys, I ended up just printing the little keys onto some cardstock. I cut out a few cardstock circles of the same size with just a hand, I think it's about a 1.5 inch diameter manual die cut. So I just did that. I glued the pieces together to give it a little bit more thickness, and then I just attached it to the necklace. And then finally, one of my absolute favorite parts of the entire look is the Mendel's box. I think that the Mendel's box is like the cutest thing in the world I've ever seen. So basically what I ended up doing was I just created a little 4x4 cube. What I ended up doing was just cutting out 6 little 4x4 squares, taping them together. I spray painted it pink, and then I printed out this vector of the Mendel's box. I actually hand created all the artwork for the vector. I recreated it because I couldn't find any high-res ones online, so I ended up recreating it all. And so here you can see like the little leftovers. So I just cut these on cardstock and then trimmed them, and then I just used a spray glue adhesive to attach them to all of the faces of it, and then tied a little light blue ribbon on top of the box. So it was very easy to make. Another way you could create the little Mendel's box is you could either buy like one of those mini cake boxes, and you could either spray paint that, or you could wrap it in pink wrapping paper. So far I think this is one of my favorite costumes. I love the Grand Budapest Hotel. It was just such a good movie. I loved the color palette of it. It was so visually beautiful to watch, and it was really, really good. So that is it for my third Halloween video. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, please like and subscribe. You can follow me on Instagram. Link is below. And until my next video, I will talk to you guys later. Bye.